Investing in a house versus buying an SUV. Hello everybody, my name is Michael Richter, and in this video I want to show you a real life story that actually happened to me and a friend of mine about how he purchased an SUV 4 years ago at the same time I put money down for a house. Two very similar people with a very similar upbringing, but we're both investing money into something and expecting different results. And I don't think I knew how big my result was going to be at the same time as he purchased his SUV. So I want to dive into the pros and cons of owning a vehicle, a nice vehicle, over plowing some money into real estate. And this is something really interesting because we both had vastly different outcomes at this point 4 years later. So let's start with this, okay? I call it investing. And really, I mean, I don't know how many people, if you're watching this, you probably don't consider buying a vehicle an investment, but you wouldn't believe how many people out there, especially car dealers, I know there's a bias, talk about how buying an SUV, buying a truck, it somehow holds its value. I mean, it's this thing. I mean, you know, people come up to me and they try to justify what this car they bought. Well, this model, it has this powerful residual income, and you know, you buy it and it's rare, it's limited edition, and you can sell it and get all this money back out of it. You know what, guys, if that's the case, I mean, please let me know. If there's some sort of investment, I'll buy 10 vehicles right now and sell this property. I'll sell another property, right? Because I've never experienced that. I've had the same vehicle for a long time, and I've never, I mean, me personally, I've never really put any value, any intrinsic value in a vehicle other than it gets me to where I need to go. I mean, that's just me. And I'll dive a little bit more into that. But let's break this down first. I'll show you what I bought. So in 2015, in January, I set out to buy a house. The purchase price was $407,000, okay? And my whole objective to do this, my reason for buying that at the time was long-term wealth and equity appreciation. It wasn't for cash flow, even though we were, after paying property tax, mortgage, and insurance, we were ahead on average close to a couple $100 a month, which I always left in the bank account and basically building up a reserve between between vacancy and just for miscellaneous repairs and for anything else like that. I never really took a cash payment on this, right? So I bought this for long-term equity appreciation. That's why I did that. So for a $407,000 property, okay, my required down payment at 80% loan to value, that means I had to come up with 20% down, okay? That's what I had to show to get approval, okay? Was $91,000 with closing costs. Okay, that's, you know, I mean, there's a whole list of closing costs. I mean, there's land transfer tax. I had to pay the agents to find my tenant, not particularly on this one, but that was in the budget. We throw a few upgrades into the house that we did ourselves. Yeah, there's different things that we use. We use a little bit of vacancy. I have to make the first mortgage payment sometimes because the house is vacant until we find the tenant that we like. So that's just basically how it goes. We bought this brand new from a builder, so that means we put money down and we waited almost a year and a half for this to get built. So I don't like to call it speculation, but the added value in this for us was we'd buy it. It was significantly undervalued at the time when we purchased it. We waited, you know, that year and a half, and when it was turnkey, there's that value add because it was no longer just a field with mud. We could actually hand the keys over to somebody. So there's instant equity when we brought this. So for the down payment for this, I took $30,000 from what we call the Golden Goose property, and I've got an amazing video on that of why I call my first property the Golden Goose, because I keep dipping into it periodically to help me pay for other properties. I took $30,000 from the Golden Goose property, okay? Now at the time, I didn't have 20% loan to value to put this in. I didn't have 20% to show from the bank, and I certainly couldn't show that I was taking 30 from another property because my numbers were stretched too thinly. My total debt service was too high. So I had to show that I had seasoned money that I could dip into. I had to have some sort of a liquid investment that I could dip into. And what we've done this several times. We have some, I mean, it's good to diversify. So we have a few mutual funds. We have some stocks. And yeah, we dipped into that, and we've been showing that several times that that's liquid. The bank is fine with that because it shows you can liquidate that and use that as the down payment. So we didn't have it. I knew my intention was to take it from this property, but the bank was like, no, as long as you show some investments, even if it's savings in an account, you're good. That's all we want to see. So that's what we used, our seasoned money in the account for at least 90 days. So my actual net cash that I had to put in this house was $61,000. 61K. That's all I had to come up with to go down on this 407 property, which is worth a lot more now, okay? Now what I got out of this property, okay? This is what I got out of it, okay? There's nothing tangible about it because I wasn't living in there. It was just basically bricks and mortar, okay? I wasn't living in there. My tenants were getting all the value out of that because they had a roof over their head. I wasn't getting that, but this is what I was getting. I was getting a little bit of cash flow, so I wasn't taking money out of my own pocket every month. It was carrying itself. I never had to put money into that. It was appreciating on the market. I had market appreciation. I had leverage because I was only putting 20% into the property. The bank was funding me the rest of this, the 80%. I had a lot of equity building up in this. I had control. I mean, it's not like, you know, anything else. It's not like when you buy a portfolio of funds or somebody else running it. I had control. I had control over all the different aspects of what was happening with my property, all the different profit centers and ways to make income on this. And I had security. I mean, for me, I don't know what there is out there that's more secure than a foundation in the ground, a piece of land, and, you know, a property that constantly brings in rent every month in a hot market. So we had those things, and we had more, but those are just some of the basic things, okay? This is 4 years later now. Now my friend at the time, okay, purchased an SUV. His purchase price for that SUV was $65,000, okay? But he got into that with zero down. And the reason why I got into that with zero down is because there's a lot of upgrades at that purchase price. So the upgrades that he was paying for, I mean, the base price would have been significantly less, but that extra money allowed him to get in basically with zero down at the low interest rate, okay? So he was with that, zero down, just making payments out of a month, no money out of his pocket. It sounds pretty good, okay? It sounds good. I mean, he's driving this nice SUV. Let's get into the pros for him. There's a status. I mean, you drive a new car. But before we get into that, okay, I want to say, I mean, I'm not bashing people who have, who drive new cars. This is just a reflection of what I'm seeing, a case study of something that happened to me. I mean, we need a car to get to work every day. Okay, we need something reliable. We need something safe for our families. We need something that's going to get us from point A to point B. And for a lot of you, depending on what job you do, what business you have, I mean, you're gonna want that brand image too. So maybe that means you're gonna have to drive that nice vehicle. You might be taking out high-profile clients if you're a real estate agent, if you're in business. I mean, that might mean a lot to you. Now, I'll be honest. For me, I've wanted to do this. I've been tempted to do this over the years. Buy that nice car, treat myself, and do that, right? But I suffer from something called the just one more syndrome. Every time I see that price, I always say, well, I could just buy one more property. And every time I get close to saving up, somewhere near around this much money, I always throw my money into one more. I don't know, real estate, it's addicting for me. I can't help it, right? So my car is nothing special. But the point is, when people have reached out to me, when investors have, wanted to do business with me, when the last investor we just bought the property with, it's funny. Nobody ever sat down, okay, when they come to me with questions and I can help them and say, well, wait a second, what kind of a car do you buy first? Because I'll be honest, there's something about this industry, okay, when you actually see the people that are making all the money in industry and doing really, really well. Like, I'll pull into these parking lots for these education networking events where people own a lot more than I do, and nobody drives anything fancy. I guess it's just to a point in our career where you do really well, you don't really have anything to prove anymore, right? That's just an observation I get. I mean, the people that seem to have more just drive average cars, I guess, right? Just what I'm seeing. The people that I know to tend to live check to check always seem to drive something they can't afford and leverage it freaking through the nines, right? So it just doesn't really make any sense to me, but that's just what I see. It's a value system, all right? If you want to make money, you gotta, I'd say, dump it into real estate. That's my opinion. But some of the things you get, let's see what you get from owning a car. You're gonna get status. It's a nice car, why not, right? You're gonna get the new car smell for sure, right? You're going to get prestige. There's comfort in knowing you have a nice vehicle, something new, leather interior, nice air conditioning. I mean, it's nice, right? And then again, there's that brand image. I mean, you gotta be congruent with a certain brand, right? But I'll tell you, when you buy a new property, you get that new house smell, and that always beats out a car any day of the week. But remember, the property we just bought is ugly. There's nothing nice about it. There's nothing nice about the property we just bought other than the numbers work really, really well when we're done forcing appreciation and getting a strong ROI on it. That's going to smell pretty good, I can tell you that. So all of this here, you know, when you drive by this house here that was due from the builder, you get all of these feelings anyway that you get from that nice car, minus the new car smell. You get that. I mean, it's nice to drive by a nice house. And what's even better than driving by a nice house is when we drive by that old bungalow, when I know what it's going to do for the investor we have, when I know what it's going to do for my future, when I know what those numbers are going to be coming in every month from those 2 units that we're now putting into turning into a semi-ensuite, that is a very prestigious feeling when you do that. So don't underestimate that and go out and rush all and spend it on a car. But I'm going to get into a little bit, I'm going to get into the actual numbers of where we are today. This is sort of, you know, what we did, but I'm going to fast forward 4 years, okay, and come into the present time and actually talk about where the numbers are today. So 4 years later, this is the result of what happens when you decide to invest in an asset versus putting money that costs you money every month into a liability that also depreciates like a vehicle does every single year. It depreciates in value. So these are the two different outcomes that we had, both my friend and I, okay? Today, in real time, this property is worth about $650,000 when I look at MLS and I compare it to comps. So it's gone up quite a bit of money since I brought it. The mortgage has been getting paid down quite a bit too since I bought that property. Okay? That's not always typical, but that's just what happened in our economy right now. I wouldn't bank on that every time, based on the strategy we're using, but that's what happened. So if I were to sell this now, and we're actually selling this soon, okay, and I'll tell you briefly after this what we're going to do with the proceeds, but if I sell it at $650,000 after expenses, I'm netting about $200 in my pocket after expenses, and there's going to be a little bit of tax getting paid out of that. I'm not going to get into the whole tax breakdown, the capital gains exemptions, but we will have to pay a little bit of tax on that. But I'm walking away with roughly $200K in capital gains on this property. My friend, for example, for his $65,000 SUV that he purchased in 2015 is now worth around $25,000. Okay, that's a pretty big drop in price. So he's out about $40,000, and the mindset he has is that he's still up 25 grand because he can use that 25 grand when he sells it, and that's like money he wouldn't have normally had. And he can take that and he can throw that into another vehicle to look to make it look good again, to make it look new. It's always got to be new, right? So that's just the difference. His net loss is $40,000. Okay, my net gain is $200,000, okay? So when you look at this, you really have to decide with real estate investing what your intentions are. There's no right or wrong. I mean, everybody's got to drive in something. Everybody's got to have a car, okay? But how much you want to spend in a vehicle and how early in your career, in your investing career, you want to spend that on a vehicle. You know, that money could have been really redeployed into something that made him a lot of money, but everybody has to make their own decisions, okay? I'd also read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that's also what got me on board to thinking like this, okay? So I'm ahead 200K, he's out 40,000 bucks, okay? Now, it's not just $200,000 that I'm making, because I'm not going to realize that, and I'm certainly not going to take that out and throw that into a car, because I know the value of what money can do for me now. I mean, now it's addicting, right? I'm taking this money, okay? Well, it's actually, so I'm taking a $200,000 gain. I'm taking the original $91,000 that I put into this property, okay? The $91,000 is already going in. 60K of that, well, it'll basically be 90 after my deposit, is going into a property I already pre-purchased that I'm closing on in the spring. The other $200K, I'm going to redeploy that into 2 more properties that I wouldn't have been able to buy with all the money tied up in this house. So I'm basically splitting it, and we're going to buy 2 more opportunities with this 200K, and that's going to grow immensely. So if I take this and I deploy that into, for example, I buy 2 bungalows and I turn them into secondary suites, and I put money into that, forcing appreciation, and then I refinance those properties after renovations and pull the money out, I can have quite a bit of increased value just in using the $200,000. I can buy about 2 houses that are going to be worth in the mid-5s. That's what I could do in today's dollars. So my wealth can grow exponentially. Then after I own 3 properties now, I can take those 3 properties, refinance them in 5 years, and now buy another property with each one of those. So you can keep really growing your money. You don't need a lot of money to own real estate. That's the whole thing. You just have to make the right decisions, and you have to know when to buy and then when to sell properties, right? And this was a good time to sell for different reasons, okay? For one, the rents were way too low, and we wanted to take profit to get into different strategy, using different strategies that I know will make us a lot more than what we made using this if you watched our previous videos, right? So it's really exciting. I mean, you got to decide what you want to do. I hope this has inspired you to make the right decisions. There's no right or wrong decisions here. You just have to make the right decision and decide what you want to spend your money on to, and be really intentional when you spend that cash. But I hope you've gotten some value out of this. Hit the like button, reach out to me. I love to get into this conversation more. I love talking about stuff like this because I've learned so much about it since I've been investing. Email me, get in contact with me. I mean, you guys have sent me some emails. I really appreciate that. I love the support. I love to reach out, and I love to help you guys. I love engaging in this, and if you send me an email, it's going to be a long reply because I love to elaborate on this. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, keep the conversation going, and I will talk to you guys next time.